The sound that broke me wasn't a scream, or an accusation or a door slammed shut. It was the crisp thump of my father's voice in a courtroom packed tight with strangers. Miami villas are ours. She isn't worth a single cent. Not she doesn't deserve it. Not she made mistakes. But she isn't worth a single cent. As if Maya, my wife, was debris to be swept from the family ledger. The judge froze mid-sentence. A few people actually gasped. Even the court clerk, who had probably heard a lifetime's worth of ugliness, looked up with startled eyes. For a moment sound flickered out. My breath snagged somewhere between my ribs. The marble floors, cold and immaculate, seemed to tilt beneath me. All I could hear was my pulse hammering a frantic rhythm against the inside of my skull. My father's hands were folded neat and calm on the stand, the same way he folded his napkin before every dinner. My mother sat beside him like a statue carved from the idea of severity. Jaw tight, lips thin, eyes forward. If guilt had a face, it wasn't theirs. If betrayal had a pulse, I wasn't sure whose I was hearing anymore, mine or the echo of theirs. Maya's fingers twitched beside me. I didn't reach for her hand. I didn't know if I was allowed to feel protective anymore. The courtroom smelled like disinfectant, sweat, and old wood varnish. An atmosphere curated specifically to suffocate honesty. Sunlight streamed high from narrow windows, slicing the room into bright, merciless rectangles. Dust particles floated in the beams like suspended verdicts. The judge blinked, cleared his throat and said, "Please repeat that, Mr. Corrigan." My father did, calmly, as if reciting a grocery list. "The Miami villas are ours. She," his chin jerked slightly toward Maya, "isn't worth a cent." My wife inhaled sharply, but she didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She looked empty, as if the words had passed straight through her skin and burrowed into her bones where no expression could reach. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Corrigan Jr., would you like to respond?" Here it was. The moment where I was supposed to defend the woman I married or condemn her. The moment I had dreaded for months, ever since the first sliver of doubt lodged under my ribs. But I couldn't speak. Because the truth was, I didn't know who to believe anymore. 3 months earlier, we'd been a normal couple, or so I told myself. Maya packed my lunch some mornings. She hummed off-key when she brushed her hair. She pressed her cold feet against my calves at night, laughing when I jolted. She loved thunderstorms but hated the way rain made her curls frizzy. Little things. The soft domestic pieces that convince you love is solid. Until the first crack. A hotel receipt in her jacket pocket. Miami. 2 nights. Just a few weeks after she'd told me she'd been visiting her sick friend. I laughed it off at first. An impulse laugh, brittle and too loud in the quiet of our bedroom. I told myself it was a reimbursement for a colleague. A misprint. Anything. But doubt is a patient creature. It takes root quietly. I didn't mention it. Not the first time. Not the second time either when I found another receipt tucked deep inside her purse. Not even the third time when I followed her location on accident. Accident, I told myself, even though I'd clicked the link intentionally, and saw she wasn't where she said she'd be. I buried each doubt like a body, hoping silence would keep them dead. Then came the email. An anonymous message arrived in my inbox before dawn one morning. "You should check the Miami transfers. She's not who you think she is." Attached were screenshots. Documents with Maya's initials, wiring instructions, account numbers I didn't recognize. And a subject line in an email she had supposedly sent to someone named simply T. "We finalize Monday. They won't suspect a thing." My chest tightened. My palms went numb. The words swam across the screen. They won't suspect a thing. They won't suspect a thing. Who was they? Who was she talking about? And what were they finalizing? When I confronted her that evening, my voice cracked embarrassingly. "Maya, what is this? Tell me what this is." She stared at the screen, lips parted, eyes glassy. I can explain." But she didn't. She couldn't. Or she wouldn't. She just whispered, "It's not what you think." Again and again, like a spell meant to undo reality. The court case. My parents filed a claim 2 weeks later. Fraud. Asset manipulation. Financial impropriety. Words sharp as razors, delivered with the clinical detachment of people who had rehearsed them. They claimed Maya had tried to steal the Miami villas from under the family name. They claimed she'd been siphoning assets, moving money with calculated precision. They claimed she'd seduced her way into influence. The worst part? They didn't seem surprised. They didn't seem hurt. They seemed prepared. As if the betrayal they were accusing her of had been expected, anticipated, even. Maya, on the other hand, looked like someone caught in the wrong dream. "They're lying," she whispered to me in the dark 2 nights before the hearing. I swear on everything we've built together, they're lying." But she couldn't explain the receipts, or the emails, or the hotel nights. And yet, something in her trembling voice felt true in a way the documents didn't. I didn't know which truth to hold. Back to the courtroom. The judge looked at Maya now. "Mrs. Rafi Corrigan, did you intend to acquire the Miami villas through unauthorized transfers?" She shook her head so slowly it looked painful. "No. I never," her voice cracked. "Your Honor, I never tried to steal anything." My father scoffed. My mother sighed dramatically, a sound polished with disdain. I stared at the floor, wondering how the hell we had arrived at this moment. My wife on trial, my parents acting like she was a parasite, and me trapped between 2 worlds that were tearing each other apart. Then the picture fell out. Literally. When my mother adjusted her handbag on her lap, a glossy photograph slipped out and skidded across the polished floor. A bailiff picked it up and handed it to the judge, assuming it was case evidence. My mother went pale. The judge studied it, eyebrows lifting. "This appears to be your husband," he said to her. "And Mrs. Rafi Corrigan." My stomach plummeted as he turned the photo around. There was my father, at a poolside bar, in Miami. And there was Maya, laughing, her face tilted toward him, his hand brushing her wrist. My father lunged. "That was nothing." The judge held up a palm. "Sit down, Mr. Corrigan." The courtroom erupted in whispers. My head spun. My wife and my father. My father and my wife. The air felt too thin. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. It's not what it looks like." My father's jaw clenched until a vein pulsed violently in his neck. "This is irrelevant. She tricked us. She manipulated." "Quiet," the judge snapped. But all I could hear was the roaring in my ears. Everything blurred. The room swayed. My heart might as well have been a siren. My parents' accusations. Maya's denials. The hotel receipts. The emails. The photo. The truth was sliding somewhere between all of it, slippery and cruel. And I was suddenly terrified of which direction it would fall. The judge leaned forward. "Something in this case is very wrong," he said slowly, eyes piercing each of us one by one. "And I intend to get to the bottom of it." His gavel hit wood like a gunshot. "Court will recess. When we reconvene, we will examine every piece of evidence, including," his gaze shifted to Maya, then to my father, "the nature of the relationship between certain parties." A chill swept through my spine. Maya grabbed my arm. Her whisper trembled. "Please. You have to believe me. I didn't betray you." But behind her words was a shadow she couldn't hide. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if the betrayal I was uncovering was hers, or my parents', or both. The hallway outside the courtroom buzzed with the sound of suppressed scandal. Lawyers whispered to clients. Reporters circled like vultures sensing blood. Family members who had come expecting a straightforward condemnation of my wife now exchanged glances filled with doubt. Maya stood inches from me, shaking, her breath uneven. "I didn't betray you," she whispered again, as if repetition might carve truth into the world by sheer force. But her voice trembled with something I couldn't identify: fear, shame, desperation, and beneath it all, an emotion I didn't want to name. My father paced down the corridor, anger radiating off him like heat from asphalt. My mother hovered behind him, whispering rapid reassurances, smoothing her hair, adjusting her coat, small grooming gestures that meant she was losing control. I watched them with a strange detachment, as if observing strangers rather than the people who raised me. The photograph replayed in my mind like a corrupted loop. Maya laughing beside my father, her head tilted just a little too close. His hand grazing hers. A moment between them that didn't belong to me. Maya reached out, fingertips brushing my wrist. "Let me explain." I pulled back, not harshly but instinctively. She flinched as if slapped. "Please," she said. "I didn't, your father and I." "Don't," I said quietly. "Not here." Her lips pressed together, trembling. For the first time since we'd met, she looked small, like a person who understood the ground was giving way beneath her, and she had no place left to stand. My father approaches. "Son," he thundered as though we were alone. "We need to talk." Maya stiffened. He glanced at her with open contempt, as if she were a stain he intended to scrub from our family name. "Whatever she tells you next," he said, jabbing a finger in her direction. "Remember the documents, the transfers, the receipts. She used you." "She? Then why were you in Miami with her?" I said. Silence dropped onto the hallway like a stone. My father blinked. This time there was no smooth recovery, no polished line, no pre-rehearsed answer. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing. Behind him, my mother's hand tightened around the strap of her purse until her knuckles whitened. I stepped closer, my voice low. "Why were you alone with my wife?" A muscle in his cheek twitched. "One meeting. Business. That's all. That's not what the photo looks like." His gaze snapped toward the restrooms, away from me, away from the truth. I felt something shift inside me then, something heavy and cold and irreversible. It wasn't certainty, no, not yet. But it was the beginning of a fracture. Between me and them. The whisper that changes everything. Court reconvened 15 minutes later. As people filed in, Maya leaned close enough that her breath warmed my ear. "I didn't sleep with him." The whisper was so soft it felt like a confession carried by breath rather than voice. "Then why?" I whispered back. "Were you with him at a hotel?" Her shoulders caved. "That's what they wanted it to look like." "They?" "My parents." My head spun again, but this time from the growing possibility that I'd been looking at the wrong villain. Before I could ask anything more, the bailiff called the room to order. A different kind of evidence. The judge folded his hands. "Before we proceed further," he said, "I need clarity." He gestured to Maya. "Mrs. Rafi Corrigan, you may continue your testimony." She stood slowly. Her voice, soft at first, grew steadier with each sentence. "I never intended to take anything that wasn't mine. I signed documents, Your Honor, yes, but I signed what his parents asked me to. They said it was for tax reasons, for preserving the family estate." My parents stiffened. Maya continued. "I trusted them. They were my family too." Her voice cracked on family. She opened her purse with shaking hands and pulled out what looked like printed emails. Old, faded. Some with my mother's signature block at the bottom. "Before today," Maya said, "I didn't show these because I was scared of what it would do to my marriage. But now I realize the truth will come out with or without me." The judge gestured for the bailiff to collect them. He skimmed the pages, face tightening. He read aloud. "Keep the transfers under the trust. He's not ready to handle assets of this size. Once things settle, we'll restructure." Email from my mother to Maya. The courtroom erupted in whispers. My mother's face turned the color of bone. My father shifted visibly, jaw clenched, then unclenched, then clenched again. Another email. "Meet me Sunday, Maya. I need you to sign the final draft before we fly home. Don't worry. This isn't something we'll bother him with." My father. My throat tightened. This isn't something we'll bother him with. They weren't protecting me. They were removing me. From decisions. From assets. From truth. The judge set the papers down, his eyes sharp. "Mr. and Mrs. Corrigan," he said, "what do you have to say regarding these correspondences?" My father cleared his throat. "They're out of context." My mother nodded rapidly. "Completely out of context, Your Honor." Maya shook her head. Tears finally breaking past her restraint. "No. That was the context. The turning point." The judge took a long breath, tapping his pen against the bench. "This court," he said slowly, "is now considering not just potential misconduct by Mrs. Rafi Corrigan, but also potential misrepresentation and possible fraudulent intent by Mr. and Mrs. Corrigan." A collective gasp swept the room. My father slammed his palm on the table. "This is absurd." "Sit down," the judge barked. My mother sank into her seat like someone deflating. My stomach churned, but something else rose beneath it. Relief. Or maybe clarity. For the first time in months, the pieces began to align. Not neatly, but clearly enough to see a shape. The hotel receipts Maya couldn't explain because my parents orchestrated the meetings. The photo that accidentally fell out. The transfers with ambiguous instructions. Emails urging secrecy from me. The anonymous message warning me about tea, which could have meant them. A family coup disguised as financial caution. Then came the twist. The judge motioned the bailiff forward again. One more document was delivered to my chambers earlier today, he said. This appears to be a bank statement registered under a corporation controlled by Mr. and Mrs. Corrigan. My parents blinked. The judge continued. These statements reflect wire transfers totaling nearly $6 million. A murmur rippled through the room. The judge's gaze sharpened like a scalpel. Mr. and Mrs. Corrigan, these appear to be routed away from the trust. Not into it. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's eyes went dead still. Maya stared at them, betrayed not just as a daughter-in-law, not just as a pawn, but as a human being manipulated into paperwork she never understood. I stood frozen, the full weight of it finally crashing down. My parents had been moving the assets. Not Maya. They had used her for signatures. Used me as a distraction. Used the trust as a shield. And when it looked like the transfers might be exposed, they blamed her. Branded her. Destroyed her reputation before she could destroy their scheme. The final blow. The judge leaned back, exhaling. It appears, he said quietly, that Mrs. Rafi Corrigan may have been misled by your family, Mr. Corrigan. The courtroom seemed to tilt. He turned to me. And you, sir? I'm very sorry. You appear to be the one betrayed most of all. Something broke inside my chest then, not like glass but like a dam. Pain surged through me, thick, hot, undeniable. Not because Maya was innocent, but because my parents weren't. They were guilty. Blatantly. Calculatingly. Coldly. And suddenly everything from my childhood clicked into sharper, uglier focus. My father's controlling nature. My mother's subtle manipulations. The endless emphasis on appearance, legacy, influence. I had been raised to trust them. I had been wrong. Very wrong. After court. Outside the courthouse, the sky was a bruised purple. Clouds heavy with unshed rain. Maya approached me slowly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have told you sooner. I should have fought harder. I should have. Her voice broke. I stared at her. Not with anger, not with disbelief, but with something quieter. Something exhausted. You trusted them, I said. So did I. A single tear dripped down her cheek. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. For the first time I believed her completely. I reached for her hand. She let me. We didn't kiss. We didn't promise reconciliation. We didn't pretend any of this could be fixed overnight. But in that moment, two betrayed people stood together. Not as husband and wife, not yet, but as survivors of the same wound. I need time, I said gently. She nodded. I'll give you all of it. The twist that lingers. 2 weeks later, a small box arrived at my door. Inside a photo. The other side of the Polaroid. On the back, written in my mother's handwriting. Destroy this. Don't let her twist the narrative. My blood chilled. Because in the picture, only visible now, my father's hand was holding Maya's forearm in a grip too tight to be affectionate. And Maya's face, frozen in that frame, wasn't laughing. She was uncomfortable. Maybe scared. The angle from the first picture had hidden it. This one exposed everything. They had framed her. Literally. They had planned the narrative. They had orchestrated every detail they needed to ruin her. Tears blurred my vision. My parents hadn't just betrayed her. They had betrayed me. I placed the photo back in the box and closed it gently, as if burying something sacred and poisonous at once. Then I whispered, to no one and everyone. This ends with me. And for the first time in months my heart felt something like truth. Painful. Heavy. But finally undeniably real.